If your mood's taking a tumble, and you're feeling a little shaky, and you're not sure of your next step, but don't want to make a false move, and that's making you jumpy, well, hang in there and don't fall apart. Because we're going to make you laugh with life's funniest moments. We've got a girl strong enough to lift a piano. And a singer who's probably now a soprano. A kid who's footloose. And a very pampered pooch. A Todd who likes rye. And a trip through the sky. All on life's funniest moments. Now tears of joy become tears of laughter. It's weddings. How nervous are you about getting married if you need smelling salts to get through your vows? Although the bride should have been tipped off when the minister asked, "Do you take this woman to be your wife?" And he said, "Let me get back to you." But the most choked up person there was the bridesmaid, who had a crush on the groom. It seems like this little boy really wants to get married, because he isn't going to wait around for the traditional throwing of the garter to be the one to catch it. But you can't blame him. It's hot out there, and this looks like the only shade available. Plus, he heard someone say the bride had cold feet and wanted to see for himself. Well, this is a classic Christmas mix-up. Grandma and Grandpa got fancy underwear. And the newlyweds got his and hers hearing aids.
You never do anything like that to us, so why should we do that for you?
Actually, they're playing a new kind of charades. You put the gift you received on your head, and everyone tries to guess what the person who gave it to you was thinking. At Sal and Vicky's wedding, all the guests were asked to take a moment to speak into the mic and say something nice about the newlyweds. Okay, Grandma's got it down cold, very sweet. But Grandpa thinks he's making a long-distance call. And as for Uncle Rudy, well, he always wanted to be a ring announcer. Cousin Brenda's cool and passes it off to the bridegroom's mother, who wraps it up with a very warm wish, despite keeping her distance as the world's biggest germaphobe. A woman's wedding day. And it seems from this clip that the old wedding saying is true. Something old, something new, something borrowed, something furry. Talk about being underconfident. This guy is still taking every possible step to get this girl to go out with him. And she's about to say, "I do." Although when he said it to her, she did say, "Say it, don't spray it." Give us 20. Chuckles. It's athletes. They say to protect themselves, humans can't remember actual pain. which is pretty great, up until the late 70s when they came out with video cameras. Now pretty much you can't forget it. And let's check in on Chuck and Arnie, who are right now where we last left them. Okay, Chuck, now let's see. The score is like 1,000 to 870 something. Which brings up that same question. When's dinner? Wow, that's amazing. He's just like any dog. We bet you're wondering, how do you get a cat to fetch like this? Just tell it, do not fetch. I'm serious, don't fetch this. Look at him go. And he means business. Yeah, if you thought dogs chasing cars was a waste of time, how about them chasing airplanes? This clip is amazing, but talk about screw-ups. This is the last time these river rafters booked their vacation through a discount travel agent. Although the nice part, they won't need a dry change of clothes when their trip is over. This may look strange, and you're probably wondering, why is this dog expanding his mouth? First with golf balls, and now with 2 tennis balls in it. More room for food, hello? This dog beats every other dog in the neighborhood. In fact, he's the chairman dog tetherball player in all of Orange County. But sadly, it still won't help him get a scholarship to UCLA. Look at this guy jumping around. He's what you call a guy who's into his work. But it's nice when you can be more excited as a coach than the kids you're coaching. He cares so much, he pinned himself and then won the state championship. Their form is good, and overall, their tangoing is quite nice. But they need to do a little more work on the dip. Doctors say you should laugh daily, so here's things you don't see every day. We've all seen the Christmas stories ever since we were kids. And as you know, it's Rudolph who gets all the press. But keeping the reindeer moving is Roland the red-tailed rabbit. Yes, you got it right. It's just what you think. A cow nursing on a dog. Which makes us ask the question, got therapy? Don't worry, moments later, both this cat and the dog realized what was happening. And we're glad to report they're happily back to fighting like cats and dogs. Coming up, a baby joins the Cake of the Month Club. And a girl goes for a 210 splat. When we return with more of life's funniest moments. Welcome back to Life's Funniest Moments. Buckle up and prepare to laugh. We're taking a nice ride. All units, be on the lookout for a white dog wearing sunglasses driving a gray sedan, seen fleeing the while you wait doggy groomers on Walnut. The sedan has hit 3 drive-thrus and now appears to be heading for the dog park on Bronson. It was just a quirk of fate that when the publisher's giveaway people knocked on the door, the first to answer was Fifi. Yo, dog, these are the hottest thing in basketball shoes, Air Kitties. Hit the court in your Air Kitties and all the other players will be like, "Ah, how cute." And you'll be like, hitting the boards and dunk. Air Kitties. Rudy wished his owner would just take the Christmas card picture already. Before any of the other dogs in the neighborhood see. Unbelievable, uncommon, and unplugged. Watch how these two go from dancing a waltz to saying, it's his fault. It's Lionel's first day in the park. And he just fell head over heels in love with it. Mr. Science Show. Hey kids, today on Mr. Science, we'll learn about static electricity. And gravity. It's tough figuring out which piece of cake is better. The one he just tasted or the other one he just tasted. Well, the only way to be sure is if he drinks a sip from 8 glasses of milk. Sharon's bowling strategy was to bowl so slowly that the pins eventually get tired and fall down by themselves. determined than ever to make this year's soccer team, Corey bounds into the field ready to spend the next 12 hours practicing. Or maybe he'll just chase squirrels. Coming up, a singer gets help hitting a high note. And a boy who keeps running into trouble. When we return with more of life's funniest moments. Welcome back to Life's Funniest Moments. Someone's about to get their feathers ruffled. It's Feathered Friends. You've heard of cheek to cheek? Well, these lovebirds are beak to beak.
Pookie, how does the rooster go?
Now, this woman claims she's taught her cockatiel to crow like a rooster. And so she has.
Good boy.
Boy, teaching your cockatiel to crow like a rooster.
Pookie, how does the rooster
A
go?
pretty cute trick. Until dawn. And after 28 dates with 28 parakeets, find out which one Mr. Right finally picks to be his bride. On the final episode of The Birdie Bachelor. You may not think these Christmas carolers are very skilled. But watch as this one guy goes from a baritone to a falsetto. Put away your calculators. It's playtime. Which of the following is this baby trying to say by shaking and rattling his crib? Is it A, gaga goo goo gaga, B, goo goo gaga gaga goo, or C, ga goo ga 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 ga? And actually the correct answer is D, goo ga ga goo ga 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 goo. Sure, this footage shows that back in grade school, everyone teased him and called him Carl the Klotz. But that was before he grew up. Started a software company, made millions of dollars. Now they refer to him as Mr. Carl the Klotz. Look at that otter loop-de-loop over and over. And now a barrel roll. Oh, but he's not performing. He just can't stop thinking about that crazy roller coaster ride. Okay, we agree. That stream is powerful, and this may seem harsh. But extreme doggy breath calls for extreme measures.
Hide. Oh, are you peeking? Hide. That's better.
Why do you think this owner is teaching his dog to hide before he fetches?
I know. So cool for you right now. Max, can you hide? There you go. Are you hiding? Oh.
Because it'll come in handy at next week's county fair barbecue competition. He admitted it was a lot of work, getting up early, doing drills, training his body, but Rocky figured the effort was worth it. There were who knows how many dropped French fries under the stove. Well, here's one spunky gal who's come up with a solution to those high gas prices. And it was a perfect plan, until the price of milk shot up to $3 a gallon. Coming up, a real loafer. When we return with more of life's funniest moments. Welcome back to Life's Funniest Moments. Talk about your eyes being bigger than your stomach. Yeah, this is one case where you can definitely say this little fellow has bitten off more than he can drool. See you next time.